You know, there's an inside joke in the first Austin Powers movie saying when Mike Myers' character, Austin Powers, said, I couldn't believe Liberace was gay. Well, when I was growing up, we all knew Liberace was gay, but we all knew he was one of the greatest entertainers. He did for the piano what Elvis did for rock and roll. And a million blue haired ladies per year can't be wrong. His shows in Vegas sold out. His TV show at the time changed the genre. Basically, it was pretty well the first, not say reality show, but close enough to it, a talk show without guests. But today we're going to be talking behind the tracks, a very interesting case. It's not really a song, but it's an assemblage of his performances that led to this. It's the very famous Libel case, Liberace versus Daily Mirror. Now, Liberace versus Daily Mirror is a 59 trend-setting English legal case in which the American entertainer Liberace sued the Daily Mirror columnist William Connor for libel after Connor, who, while writing under the pen name Cassandra, published an article strongly hinting that he was homosexual. Liberace, of course. At the time, homosexual sex was illegal in the UK. Liberace was successful in the action and was awarded £8,000. The award, equivalent to £235,000 in 2023, was the largest libel settlement for any case in British legal history to that date. The Argus has described the case as one of the most sensational libel trials of the century. Now, this led to various entertainers, including my favorite singer, Krista Berg, to win several libel cases against members of the press. Now, the libel action related to an article Connor wrote describing Liberace as the summit of sex, the pinnacle of masculine, feminine, and neuter, everything that he, she, and it can never want. A deadly, winking, sniggering, snuggling, chromium-plated, scent-impregnated, luminous, quivering, giggling, fruit-flavored, mincing, ice-covered heap of mother love. Why don't you tell us what you real feel? The case partly hinged on the use of the term fruit-flavored, as fruit is an American slang term for homosexual. Connor denied he was familiar with that usage. Yeah, right. In court, Liberace denied he was gay, stating, "I'm against the practice because it offends convention and it offends society." Following his award for damages, Liberace joked in a telegram that it cried all the way to the bank. Liberace continued to maintain that he was not a homosexual throughout his life. Now, he was also involved in further litigation in that weird year of 82 when Scott Thorson, Liberace's 22-year-old former chauffeur, sued the pianist for $113 million in palimony after he was let go by Liberace. He again denied he was homosexual, and during court depositions in 84, he insisted that Thorson was never his lover. The case was settled out of court in 1986, and we still don't know the monetary practices. Now, Liberace sent a telegram to the Mirror. What you said hurt me very much. I cried all the way to the bank. Again, he sued the newspaper for libel, testifying in court that he was not homosexual and never took part in homosexual acts. He was represented in court by Gilbert Bafus, one of the great barristers of the period. Now, again, he won it because of the fruit comment. Now, Liberace's popularization of the phrase used in regards to the judgment inspired the title "Crying All the Way to the Bank" for a detailed report of the trial based on transcripts, court reports, and interviews by the former Daily Mirror journalist, Ravel Barker. Now, Liberace sued and settled a similar case in the U.S. against Confidential. Rumors and gossip magazines frequently implied that Liberace was homosexual throughout his career, which he continued to deny vehemently until his death. A typical issue, Confidential, in 57, stated why Liberace's theme song should be Mad About the Boy. Now, of course, the Thorson case settled in the court. According to published reports, Thorson received a $95,000 cash settlement, plus 3 cars and 3 pet dogs worth another $20,000. Thorson stated after Liberace's death that he settled because he knew that Liberace was dying and he intended to sue based on conversion of property rather than palimony. He later attested that Liberace was a boring guy in his private life and mostly preferred to spend his free time cooking, decorating, and playing with his dogs, and he never played the piano outside of his public performances. Thorson said Liberace, had several decorated, ornamental pianos in the various rooms of his house, but he never played them. Now, because Liberace never publicly acknowledged he was gay, knowledge of his true sexuality was muddled by stories of his friendships and romantic links with women. He further obscured his sexuality in articles such as "Mature Women Are Best," TV's top pianist reveal what kind of woman he married. Now, in the 2011 interview, actress and close friend Betty White confirmed that Liberace was indeed gay, and she was often used as a beard by his managers to counter public rumors of the musician's homosexuality. Now, when he was diagnosed HIV positive in August 1985 by his private doctor in Las Vegas, aside from his longtime manager Seymour Heller and a few family members and associates, he kept his terminal illness a secret until the day he died and did not seek medical treatment. Scott Torson remarked he was not aware that Liberace had any health issues, and up until 1 year before his death, he was in overall excellent shape for his age, barrel-chested and powerfully built. In August 1986, during one of his last interviews with the TV news program Good American America, Liberace hinted of his failing health when he said, "How can you enjoy life if you don't have your health?" Hospitalized with pneumonia on January 23rd to 2787 at the Palm Springs County Hospital, he later died in the late morning of February 4th at the Cloisters, his home in Palm Springs, at age 67. He had a Catholic priest administer the last rites to him the day before his death. Now, the Riverside coroner eventually performed an autopsy and determined that Liberace's cause of death was cytomegalovirus pneumonia, a frequent cause of death in people with AIDS. The coroner also determined at the time of his death Liberace was HIV positive, had pulmonary heart disease, and calcification of a heart valve. The coroner said that Liberace's doctor had deliberately claimed a false cause of death because heart failure is never caused by encephalopathy. Hard to spell. Author Darren Asbury Pyron wrote that Liberace had made HIV positive and symptomatic from 1985 until his passing. So we don't know who gave it to him. I don't think it was Thorson, but like I said, but Kerry James Wyman, his personal assistant and alleged lover, had HIV and later died in May 1995 at age 34. Now, of course, Liberace, 2 Emmys, 6 gold albums, and 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So Liberace lived a life he wanted to live. He was a performer. He was a tremendous promoter of various piano and music. A great singer, a good dancer. There's different tape of him and Sammy Davis having dance-offs. We knew he was gay, but it's like this, ladies and gentlemen. Did people really care? Liberace, like Frank Sinatra, is completely straight, allegedly. John Wayne, allegedly completely straight. Did he care they were heterosexual? No, he had their fan bases. Liberace, to me, was an ultimate entertainer. Now, there was 2 TV movies that were done right after his passing, long before Beyond the Candelabra. But Edward G. Robinson's son, who was the killer in Dirty Harry, played a very, very strong version of Liberace. And Rue McClanahan played his mother. I've been watching that preparation for this podcast. A very interesting movie, so if you want to check it out, it basically alleges he's homosexual without saying he's homosexual. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, Liberace died 38 years ago. People under the age of 40 can't even conceive how someone like this would not be out and proud in 2025. But Liberace was a conservative. Liberace, not say he was a self-hater, but he wasn't going to, these fans were in the joke. And like I said, no offense. The blue-haired ladies that used to show up at these events said, you might as well look at it, you paid for it. Stuff like that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at one point he was making close to $500,000 a month, or $1 million a month, which is big money back in the day. He never did movies, but if he would have lived another 10 years, maybe he would have had his own talk show. But even David Letterman tried to make fun of him once when he was showing his cooking show, and Letterman couldn't even hold the joke because the audience were turning against him. See, I'm a straight man from Canada. I love women. I love the beauty of women, and he just happened to be gay, and he loved women. He loved every woman. And I've never heard of Liberace turning down an autograph. I've never heard of Liberace doing anything wrong. He was good for the California and Las Vegas economy. He was always buying stuff. Known to be very generous. I mean, holy frig, he's mansion, man. You look at lifestyles of rich and famous. He was there. So Liberace, the Daily Mirror made him, because 1957 to 1987, the last 30 years of his life, they predicted he was going to laugh all the way to the bank, because he basically, not saying, some people thought this was all a setup, that the Daily Mirror did that to promote his career, but they didn't, because he took really a big offense, especially Confidential magazine. Tab Hunter, and it's kind of looked at in LA Confidential as well, like the Danny DeVito Hush Hush and the QT. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I regret never meeting Liberace, By the time everybody was dying from AIDS in the 80s, a lot of the artists I wanted to meet had passed on by 1992 or 93. If I would have met Liberace, you know what I'm saying? Thank you for the music. And I can relate to Liberace because it's hard being talented in a generally untalented world. I've written over 70,000 stories and podcasts as a journalist. I feel blessed by God to do that for you guys. And Liberace is the same thing. Liberace was a very talented man in a very untalented world. And he can play anything, and he can... he did the themes at the Oscars. I think the 82 Oscars, Chariots of Fire? Why do you think Chariots of Fire were so popular? Liberace played it at the Oscars. Everything he touched turned to rhinestone. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our Behind the Tracks podcast, and this is a combination of remote control or TV column, let us know in the like, comment, subscribe, or share.